So I figured it would be fun to geek out about the Inquisitor's Mace next, and where it's good and not good, and also how it sizes up as an item, basically. How much you should consider it worth purchasing. And this is maybe me trying to hit the other side of the coin after the first two items that I looked at, which I thought were pretty good items, the Ralos and the Soul Reaper Axe. Now this is one that's, in my opinion, not going to hold up so well and is going to look pretty bad at the end of the review. But maybe that's just me having preconceived notions. Preconceived notions, they are slippery like coconut lotion. So we are gonna go ahead and just put it to the test and give it the review and see if, you agree with me at the end of it or not, that it's like generally a weak item for its price point. Alright, to Paint 3D we go. Here is the header. The Inquisitor's Mace, a main hand crush weapon. We can test it out on the combat dummy here real quick. Like all the mechanics and all the spec glory that was the last two items. This is what an Inquisitor's Mace does. You hit stuff with it. That's what it does, and it's like that's an important role. Your main beat stick needs to be a good beat stick. So how good is this beat stick? Well, the first thing that I would say is most important about this beat stick is not necessarily how good it is, but how expensive it is, which is that it is 318 million GP as of June 2025 right now. So it's 318 mil, and that probably has a lot to do with how rare it is. It's pretty rare. Comes from a boss that takes a long time to kill, and it's a main hand crush weapon, like we said. And then let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes. So here's basically, let's slice this up just a little bit. Here's the meat. Here's like the meat and potatoes of where it's good and where it's not good. Mostly just where it's good. If it's not mentioned, it's not good there. Sorry. Alright, so its use cases are mainly like I tried to go from like significance order in my opinion, but it always depends on what content you do. Like if you don't do chambers, then obviously you don't care about these, and you might just do Slayer all the time, and then you just care about Araxxor and other stuff. But yeah, I tried to, like, I don't know, at least put the main five that I could think of here. So one hammer Tecton in Reg and CMs. So you're guaranteed to get one hammer at Tecton. If you have access to an Inquisitor's Mace and not a hammer, I don't know what to tell you, except that that's not right. If you're an Iron and you're in that situation, that's remarkable. That would have to be pretty crazy, but I mean, that's like 1 in a million. I'm not really gonna cover my ass for that. So yeah, you're gonna be guaranteed one hammer at Tecton because you have a hammer, and you're only gonna end up in a one hammer situation in solos. I would say pretty much ever. Once you get to trio, you're almost never going to see one hammer, and once you get to two hammers, Scythe does become better. And then you put Vasa Crystals. I mentioned Vasa Crystals immediately after that because Vasa Crystals, like, you bring it to Vasa Crystals because it's like near equivalent to a rapier, and you already have it because you brought it for Tecton, right? I mean, the hitch here is that in most endgame like CM setups that I've seen with people who have everything, like what they bring to CM, they don't tend to find a mace in that inventory. There's just too many other things that make a good difference, and a mace just doesn't quite make the cut. But if you're doing solos, then it's definitely, I'd say, got a very small role to potentially offer you. I would say it is fair to call this, like, if you don't have a scythe, it's a decent utility item at CMs, and if you do have a scythe, it's like a really, really minor utility item at CMs. So that's about what I'd call that if I had to put a bow on it. One hammer Tecton and Vasa Crystals is just, underwhelming. Nightmare. So at Nightmare, it is second best by like 2%. And so it can be used. I use it at Nightmare when I do P&M personally because it doesn't use charges. So this minus 2%, I just eat that to save a little bit of money. I don't know if it's ultimately the best call. It's probably not, but whatever. And then this is like, it's such a slim margin between Scythe and Inquisitor's Mace at Nightmare that which one's better can change with every like melee gear release that comes out. But yeah, as it stands right now in max, scythe is 2% better. So but if you don't have a scythe, it's obviously like really like way better than anything else you can get. It's like 10% over a Soul Reaper axe. But speaking of Soul Reaper axe, now once we get past Nightmare, pretty much everywhere else it runs into the problem of being like outclassed or like, you know, in the shadow or just like standing next to a Soul Reaper axe at all times. So like at Araxxor, it's equivalent to a Soul Reaper axe, and down here at the bottom you'll see I have a note. It contends with the Soul Reaper axe on various other monsters. Should be monsters weak to melee, usually losing narrowly. So pretty much anything that's weak to melee, and like you're thinking like, oh, the Inquisitor's Mace is like just a 4-tick high DPS weapon. Well, the Soul Reaper axe is a 5-tick very high DPS weapon as well, and it usually beats the Inquisitor's Mace on like Slayer monsters and stuff just narrowly, and like a Moxley Anyways, yeah. So at Nightmare, it's like it stands above a Soul Reaper axe, but pretty much everywhere else, the Soul Reaper axe is kind of like, it's kind of like, why would you have this over a Soul Reaper axe? Considering a Soul Reaper axe is also useful at a ton more places, because you know any place that's like a slash specific boss, the Soul Reaper axe is like one of the best weapons, and an Inquisitor's Mace is just not viable. That's like Tob, Vard Orvis, Duke. It's a lot of bosses, so worth mentioning. Colosseum and TOA, a 4-tick high DPS melee weapon, has a utility role for you. Rapier can substitute pretty much freely. Like the 2 prayer bonus difference that everyone always talks about from the Inquisitor's Mace to the Rapier. Yes, this does have 2 more prayer bonus, but in these utility roles, you are holding this weapon for a very, very short amount of time in Colosseum and TOA. So that prayer bonus is not actually doing really much at all. So even that's like, Rapier can sub. Rapier can just sub. We can leave it at that, basically. And these utility roles, by the way, are killing the Berserker Warband with minimum tick loss at Colosseum. And TOA, you need, like, it's for the core, basically. Just DPS in the core, you need DPS in the core, and this is an option that people often go with. But a Rapier is, like, equivalent in both of these roles, minus 2 prayer bonus for the short amount of time that you hold it, like I said. Alright, so that's, like, the, like, best case that I can make for an Inquisitor's Mace, which, you know, like all this is like, okay, obviously this isn't a weapon that you talk about in the context of having a scythe then, because it's like supposed to be a weapon that you use if you don't have a scythe. So in that case, it's like your Dragon Hunter Lance on Pound, it's probably like 15% better in the first room of CMs. That's very easy to reset if it goes sideways. But then at Crystals, you know, your Lance is like almost just as good. It's like, I guess, true in both CMs and regs. So it's not really doing much for you there if you're using a Lance. So ultimately, it's losing you like maybe like 15 seconds to Tecton in a CM in a solo setting, and probably less than that in a team setting, even if we hold this equivalent. So that's like, you know, 15 seconds over the course of a CM. You know, it's you want it to come in for you at that price point, and especially like as well as its alternatives do. And that's the big thing, is that it has this alternative that it just loses to in so many places. And then like in the places where it does like try to make up for it, it's like one place, it's like Nightmare, but that's one boss. And then, you know, the Soul Reaper axe has everything weak to slash, and yeah, I've already talked about the Soul Reaper axe. This isn't a Soul Reaper axe review, but yeah, it has turned into what I would consider to be a gentlemanly thrashing of the Inquisitor's Mace as an item. I don't know. If you disagree, let me know. If you have any suggestions for other items to geek out about or talk about, let me know. Yeah, that's probably it for that one.